Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be reviewing The Shy Season 6, Episode 2, Mo Douda, Mo Problems. First things first, I do have my tea right by me, nice and handy. Uh, Last episode, my voice was definitely going through it, but I came prepared today. So let's just jump right into it. First, we're going to get into Victor and Jamal. So we start off the episode with Victor heading to his office, and waiting for him, much to his surprise, was Jamal. And as we do remember, I think last season, or maybe a little bit before that, Jamal, he is Lene's brother, and he was arrested for killing someone in a dispute which Tracy, I believe, and Victor witnessed, and so he was unfortunately sent to jail. But Jamal had informed Victor that he was let go due to evidence, I think tampering with evidence or some kind of issue with evidence, and so basically he's looking for rehabilitation, a better life, better start, found Christ, and is looking for a job and all of those sorts. And Victor, he's a little bit on the fence about it. And not only that, Jamal, as you know, his main focus is definitely Lene and just rebuilding his relationship with Lene and bonding with her. And so Victor basically asks him to give him some time to see what he can do, and they will go from there. So I'm just interested to see where everything will go with that. Then we have our next segue into Keisha and Emmett. And of course, previously, as we all know, in the last episode, Keisha and Emmett had some tension there. They get into an argument, and Emmett leaves. And he goes and hangs out with Douda, Nuck, and the gang and the guys. And so basically they're still on that discussion, and Keisha's just telling Emmett, next time he does that, they're done. That's it. It's a wrap. So, he needs to get himself together. And, he lies, which I'm like, come on, Emmett. We had so much progression over the seasons just within himself. Relationship-wise, he still needs some progression, I think. Especially when it comes to serious relationships. Because I believe, him and Tiff did try to do a serious relationship, but we all saw how that ended. And so now he's in a serious, committed relationship with Keisha. And, I just think that they're both growing together. But he still tried to lie and say, oh, I just went for a walk. I didn't really go anywhere. And Keisha, who is still following Nuck, her ex or her fling or whatever that was like, no, I saw you on Nuck's Instagram story. And Emmett, much similar to myself, was a bit taken back. Like, Keisha, why are you still following Nuck? Like, unfollow, like, today. Okay, so Emmett was just kind of looking like, what? And, Keisha was basically like, that's not the point. We're in a relationship. Yes, we're going to have our ups and downs. I'm not an amusement park. It was fun previously. It can still be fun, but boundaries and get serious. And this is a serious, committed relationship. So, of course, Emmett, they come to a resolution, which is good. And, they work through that issue. Now, Keisha is still pushing Emmett about buying a bigger house because she just feels like they're all over top of each other in the house that they're currently in. And, I think this was the house that Emmett and Tiff used to live in, and now Emmett and Keisha now live in. So she just feels uncomfortable with that. And Emmett's all like, we could redecorate, and Keisha's like, no. So Emmett's like, okay, let me see what I can do. Douda has a realtor. I'll go look at some houses. And of course, Keisha just makes it known that do not make the decision without me. I want to be there, and we could do this together, which is understandable, which is good. And so after that, we now see Rashad at him and Deja's house. and he is gathering up his old belongings, his throwback items, and he's just placing them out like a little garage sale right outside their fence in the front to, sell to the neighborhood and anybody that basically walks by. Of course, Deja comes out because she's like, what in the world? Like we live in a nice little neighborhood. What do you have, going on? What is all this? And he's just like, hey, these are like some of my throwback things. I want to, contribute. I want to, earn some money as well. And this is just a respectable way of doing it. One way that Rashad came up with earning money. And of course, Deja being such a great partner and just understanding, or at least trying to understand where Rashad is coming from, offers to loan him some money. But Rashad, I think being a little bit more traditional and a man was just like, I don't want any money from you. I want to do this on my own. I want to have my own money. I want to do it my way, the way I feel comfortable with, and I don't want any handouts or anything, which I completely understand. And so they don't argue, they don't get into it. They both, are pretty understanding of one another. And so she, lets him do his thing. He did have one guy come up and try to buy something from him, and, he does need to work on his pricing. And so the guy was just like, I don't want this. Like, you can have it, you can keep it, that's okay. And so it kind of does like frustrate him a little bit because he's like, come on, I'm just trying to, earn a decent living, a little bit of something, get some cash. And, I do like Rashad's dedication of also similar to Jamal, just trying to rehabilitate his life, find a job, do something good for a living, even if he just is trying to get used to being back on the outside and just trying to trust the process and be patient and just overall, like, just do things, legally and not streetwise. So I feel for Rashad because he's really trying, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I wish somebody around him could give him a job, but for now, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with him. So now we have Tiff. Of course, her and Rob are still selling weed. And of course, Dante is still one of Tiff's clients. So we see Tiff is at Dante's house. And to her surprise, there is another weed connoisseur there. And Dante is already smoking his weed and he's loving it. And Tiff is just looking like, hold up now. We usually do business together. Who is this guy? She's a bit, have her guard up. She's ready. And, Dante's like, Tip, it's not like that. Like, he's actually great. His weed is amazing, And even the guy, which his name is Cairo was basically explaining to her, like, my weed's amazing. I'm not trying to run you out of business. I just also sell to Dante as well. He's also one of my clients, and this is my business. I grow my own weed, and yeah. So he offers, in the nicest way possible, Tiff to try his weed, and he basically explains to her that when you get high, most people think you're supposed to be coughing up a lung, you're supposed to be, all slumped out, feeling like, And he's like, no, that's not the case at all. You can actually smoke weed without coughing, without feeling like disgusting afterwards or just all out of it by any means, and how organic his product is. And Tiff actually tries it and she's like, this is actually good, so she does get to talking with Dante, who still thinks he has a chance, which is hilarious. He's still trying to, weasel his way back in there, but she's like, nope, I got a man, that. I'm not here for that, but, it was nice to meet Cairo and stuff. So, of course, Tiff goes back to Rob and lets him try it, and he's just like, I'm not coughing, I feel great, this is great. This man about to take us out of business, like, he's about to be our competition. And Tiff's like, no, why don't we recruit him as our new supplier? Let's sit down, let's have a talk with them. Or, well, excuse me, Tiff said she would sit down and have a talk with him. And after hearing all of that, Rob was like, okay, you mentioned Dante. We got a guy that sells better weed than us. I'm going to come with you. We can do this together. You're not going by yourself. And, that was that. So I just thought that like that was pretty funny too. Like I'm coming with you. I don't trust this. So yeah. So then we get into Myasia and Gemma. They are out, shopping around. Myasia wants some new clothes. Go Myasia. And a performer by the name of Sasha overhears Myasia and Gemma talking about, Myasia's music career and, you know, just her trying to like rebrand herself and, working on music and just finding like her footing, like where she just wants to be in this whole business and stuff like that. And so Sasha offers Myasia to be her opening act. Nothing too long, maybe 10, 15 minutes, whatever works for her. And her and Gemma exchange information, and Myasia will be Sasha's opening act. Of course, with Myasia and Gemma, they still have some things to work out business-wise with their business relationship. Of course, they're great friends, or just, friends in general, but business-wise, they just have to figure out, like, as a manager, what's going on with Gemma as far as, like, what does she do? How much of a portion is she going to be taking away? Can she get Myasia some money? Because Myasia is like, all right, look, I'm not getting any money from this, and you're my manager. Of course, you're going to be getting a portion. So, like, what's up? So, of course, over that, they're both really excited because Myasia is going to be performing, and so I think that's really awesome for her because she is a pretty good artist. So we are back at Smokey's, which we all love. And we have, of course, Darnell, which I mentioned in my last video, which I was like, where the heck is Darnell? Like, I need Darnell to pop up and give Emmett, seriously, like, a talk. Like, he needs to have a serious father and son talk, somebody that is a stern parent, well, not a stern parent, but someone to be stern and be like, look, what are you doing? What's going on here? What's your relationship with Douda? Like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And at least show, some concern. So, of course, Emmett and Darnell are talking, and he's basically like, yeah, I heard from Jada, who we do not see this episode, but, he hears from Jada that there's been some issues going on with Emmett and Keisha, and just the fact that Emmett bought Tiff a car, and he's like, what's up with that? And so he's like, yeah, I bought Tiff a car. Oh my gosh, women talk, of course. And, I'm thinking about buying Keisha and I a house. And so his dad's like, okay, but how, and he's just like, yeah, Douda has a realtor. I'm supposed to be going over there, literally right now. And I need to get over there to go look at the house, and meet with both of them. And of course, Darnell being a great dad, and having that great relationship now that he has with Emmett, it's like, and you're going by yourself. No, I can go with you. And of course, Emmett declines and is like, no, Douda will be there. And Darnell is just like, look, when you lie down with the devil, you wake up with fleas, And Emmett's like, that's not the same. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And he's just like, you know what I mean? But, I think that's not the first time somebody called Douda the devil. So it's just like, great fitting name for him, literally. And it's kind of like disappointing because I feel that everybody around Emmett and anybody else that's doing business, I think, with Douda can see the type of person that Douda is, and it's just been so many warnings. So I think for the umpteenth million time, that is, Emmett's warning, and especially this time is from Darnell. Like, you need to be careful of Douda and all these business deals, and, it's good that Smokey's is doing great, but still, I don't trust him. And anybody, mother, uncle, grandpa, cousin, grandma, whoever knows about Douda and the type of person he is, and that's not even just doing business, that's just word of mouth. So I am a bit concerned, of course, for Emmett and, just basically like everything that, he has going on is just kind of like, okay, like, what are we doing? So, yeah. Um, Now we're going to get into, um, who was next? Kidding. We're going to get into Victor, and he and Fatima are basically having a nice dinner. And, of course, we know from last episode, Victor won his election. But, like, we saw Victor was nervous. He didn't think he was going to win. At the same time, like, Victor, you and Quincy didn't discuss anything. Like, did you not have a plan? Because now he's just sitting here like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I didn't. I guess he didn't necessarily have a plan. He's talking about Jamal and him coming to him to reconnect with Lene, rehabilitate himself. Move forward in life and do something great. And overall, like, Fatima is like, Victor, like, you have no plan. Like, so what are you going to talk about? What is your claim to action? Like, what are you going to, try to change? Like, what are you going to do while you're in office? And he's like, well, I can work on men's mental health. And she was like, that's it? Like, and he was like, well, like, no, I can do more. And I'm like, you need to sit down with Quincy, your campaign manager, and just kind of figure that out and figure it out soon. I think men's mental health is awesome, but there also needs to just be a lot more work that needs to be put in, and a lot more that just needs to be done. So, now we are again, back at Smokies, and we have Papa and Kenya, and it's just really cool to see them because they're still talking a little bit, not really talking, but they're coworkers, so they talk. And Papa seems to be in a rush, and Kenya's just like, hey, don't worry about catching the bus. I can give you a ride home. And so they kind of bond over the fact that they are PK kids, and that they're just, both PKs. And her father, I believe, he's a pastor of like a mega church, which Papa dad, Pastor Stanley, is not a big fan of, and so they kind of discuss like what it's like being PKs and listening to certain music, what they can and cannot do, and just the sermons and just different things. And then they discuss basically like, okay, how do you view me? And I always really liked Papa's character because he's very expressive. And not one to like be shy and like hold back of like how he feels. And he's like, he has a big heart, and so he just expressed to her like, I'm not trying to be your brother, but I am trying to be somebody that is supportive of you and you can kind of come to and stuff like that. Of course he wants to date her, but she is 19, which isn't that much older than Papa, but because he'll be turning 18 in the summer, so he's still trying to wiggle in there and see like, hey, do I have a chance? And she's like, no, not yet. I mean, you could ask as many times, but not right now. So but it's kind of cute to see. I'm hoping nothing crazy happens with them. I'm hoping, because I did kind of see her face after she dropped Papa off. It just kind of looked like she was worried, or I don't know. Everybody comment in the comments below what you think she could have been thinking in that moment when it kind of pans to her face and she was just kind of looking. If you thought anything of it, And of course, as you know, Bakari is also, living and staying with Papa. And it was so interesting to watch the dynamic and actually see Papa's mom, because I was like, I don't think we ever got a chance to see Papa's mom. And so, we have Pastor Stanley, Papa, and Bakari all at the dinner table. And, the boys are going back and forth about doing things the right way, the legal way, and the street way. And so, of course, Bakari always making fun of Papa. And it just kind of reminds me of, like, some kind of, like, sibling thing or, like, a sibling bond kind of relationship, because Bakari's always saying something to Papa, and this time it's about him making, like, $7 and some change working at Smokies, and Papa's like, well, at least I got, a good job. I'm not out here ripping and running the streets working for somebody else, which is Douda. And, well, not Douda, basically Bakari's like nothing's wrong with that and this and that, and they just keep going back and forth. And of course Papa's mom comes over and it's just like, we aren't, you know, people, like, who are we to judge anybody? You shouldn't judge people, we're not God, you know. And so that kind of leads Pastor Stanley to jump in and say a few words, and Papa doesn't like this. And I think that for me it's quite interesting to see, because if I remember correctly in previous seasons, Papa always, and I think that's one thing again that kind of stood out amongst the friend group for Jake, Kevin, and Papa, which is the simple fact that Papa has a father figure, you know, and a father who is obviously Pastor Stanley. I think with Jake, I don't know, I don't know if we ever discussed what happened to their father. With Reg, Victor, and Jake's father, but we never see him, and I'm assuming he just was not around. And then we had Kevin, who eventually gets to, you know, I don't even think he was introduced to his father. I think he like spent a little bit of time, maybe an episode or two with his father, but his father ends up passing away, so he doesn't really have much memory or anything, any kind of real, he never had a real connection with his dad, so it was just like, And then when, after that, you know, he did try to establish a bond, not really like a father and son relationship, but more of like an older brother relationship with Brandon, but then, of course, Brandon is unalived, and, you know, there goes that. So him and Emmett were close, but like Kevin said to Emmett, and I think either season 3 or 4, I think it was season 4, specifically maybe episode 1, you're not Brandon. So that's that. Like, let's get it straight. You don't have to do all this. You're not Brandon. It's not going to be like that. So yeah, and I remember with Papa, I think that was one thing that really stood out. And I remember the boys used to like kind of make fun of him for it, because Papa was always preaching, you know, the good word, the gospel, discussing the Bible, you know, and just kind of quoting some things that he, you know, his dad would say, and that he felt really highly of. And I remember, I think too, Papa said something about Jake during his like gosh, my mind went blank. Sorry. I think Papa said something to Jake in like a little bit of a diss. I think they were having like an assembly, if anybody remembers that episode too, about not having a father. So yeah, that was just one thing that I think always stood out for me. And so my main thing, what I'm trying to get at, is that Papa always spoke so highly of Pastor Stanley, his father, and, you know, just different things that he always talked about. And so even if the boys would clown him on it, he always did. And so after that incident, after Ronnie's funeral, where he gets arrested at the cemetery, Pastor Stanley does, for money laundering, you could see even then when the camera kind of pans to Papa, and the guys are all like looking at Papa like, oh crap. Like, I wasn't expecting the cops to roll up and arrest your dad. You can see Papa's face, and I think in that moment, that's when his perspective changed of his dad. I think he no longer placed him on that pedestal. And in this episode, as we now see, and I think Papa still holds on to that, it's him, Papa, and Pastor Stanley still having that back and forth, and where Pastor Stanley basically lets him know, like, you know, we all fall from grace. We fall down, but we get up when the saint's just a sinner. Y'all know. So he's just like letting him know, I had my fall from grace. I got back up, and thankfully I have a great, you know, forgiving congregation. And, you know, Papa's still on his face. You can see is like, whatever. Like, but he still doesn't look at him the same. And I laughed a little bit because Bakari was like, church finger, I'm out, you know, I'll excuse myself, y'all can have this intimate conversation. And it was nice to see that Pastor Stanley kind of brings in Bakari with his words and makes him basically family, and telling him like, hey, you're a son to me, you know, this is how I view you, I'm taking you in, you're like another son for me. And, you know, Bakari, you can see on his face, it's like, oh, cool, like I got a family, like this is nice, you know. And so I just thought that that was like really cute, really sweet, and I think that's something definitely Bakari needed because later in the episode we know that Douda visits Douda gets on my nerve. Douda visits Pastor Stanley at his church while he is cleaning up and basically tries to keep him connected, keep him in the business, and you know, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name, but he basically throws him the bag of money and was just like, here, and he was like, I don't want this. I'm not doing business with you. And, hands it back very kindly and declines their offer. And so, of course, as we know, Bakari was peeking in through the cross in the door and just like, oh crap, that's like Pastor Stanley. Like, oh, I am not going in. I don't want no parts of it. I'm going to stay outside. And so, I think it was just interesting to see that exchange as well. And Pastor Stanley really sticking by what he told Papa of, just again revamping himself, trying to do the right thing. It's important for both, not only he, himself to do the right thing, but both boys, Bakari and Papa, to also do the right thing. And, as Pastor Stanley, is important for him to also, like I said, not only do the right thing, but also lead by example so that they can do the right thing. And I think by him handing the money back to Douda was leading a bit by example, even if, Papa was not there. Bakari was able to see, okay, he's not doing business with Douda. And I think that that was important because, he just spoke that word over dinner. So, like I said, I was still a bit concerned, and I will come back to that moment, but I was still a bit concerned, about Papa and his relationship with Pastor Stanley, because like I said, I think he's still holding on to that. And, you could just see in his face, he's just like, okay, yeah. And his dad's just trying to say, like, either you forgive me and we move on, or we just going to have to kind of, like, move on some kind of way, but I hope you can figure out a way to not hold things against me in a sense. And so we'll see, because it's just really interesting to see him not put his dad on a pedestal like he used to, and just kind of look at him like, wow, like I can't believe you really did that, and so back to the church scene with Douda and Pastor Stanley, and I forgot the one guy's name because I was just like, what? So you just like a little lap dog, like a little puppy dog for Douda. Every time, now you want to start quoting him about when somebody gives you a gift, you take it. Like, now you want to be his mini-me. Like, what are you, Mike Myers from at Austin Powers? Like, what are you, mini-me now? Like, I was just like, goodbye, go somewhere. Like, now you letting it get to your head and you're doing too much. You're not Douda. Like, go sit down. You're just a second-hand person that rolls with the crew. Like, okay. So, of course, as we see, Douda leaves the church after kind of subtly threatening Pastor Stanley. Like, okay, I'll remember this. And when he leaves the church, of course, Bakari's like trying to power strut back to the car to make it seem like he didn't see anything, and he's just standing there waiting. And Douda basically snaps on Bakari and it was like, you work for me. I don't care if you live with that man or not. Your loyalty is with me. So next time we do something, you're coming inside. Don't stand outside. I don't care who it is. So I feel like we kind of see Bakari has a bit of a change, not really a change of heart, but just a bit of realization. Like, you can kind of see how deeply he cares about Papa's family, like, and especially Pastor Stanley, and him just kind of keeping him in mind. Even though everybody knows Bakari runs with Douda's crew and, basically is like a watcher, a lookout, he works for him. You could, kind of see that he still does have some kind of respect for Pastor Stanley. So, I think that I'm also, again, interested to see how Bakari's life and just things kind of unfold for him. So, whew, all right. So now we're going to get into, basically, sorry. So now we're going to get into, of course, kind of lost my train of thought there. We have Bakari also um, seeing Rashad at Smokies, and we just kind of see that they're having a one-on-one talk, just a little sit down, because I can't quite remember if they initially met at Smokies. When we were kind of introduced to Bakari, just a tad bit there in previous seasons when I think he tried to rob Smokies and rob Emmett at gunpoint. You know, and I believe Rashad was the one that was like, hey, like, what are you doing? And I think he was initially the one. That's how he ended up living at Victor's house, because Rashad was the one that kind of brought him in as well. So it's interesting to see them talking again. And basically, Bakari's like, hey, if you're looking for a job, you're looking for money, come work for Douda. And Rashad's like, no, are you crazy? Like, I've been locked up. I've done that. I've been there, done that. I don't want to do it. No. So Bakari's just like, all right, offer's still on the table. If you want some money, let me know. And oh my gosh, again, like I said, I really do feel for Rashad, and I'm hoping somebody else other than Bakari, gives him a job, because you can see on his face, like, he was kind of contemplating it, like, if push comes to shove and I do not find something soon, I'm about to take Bakari up on that offer. Which I think I heard Bakari say something about, like, yeah, if you want to start a business, you can holler at Douda. And I'm like, please don't do it. Don't do it. There's so many people in business with Douda at this point. Please don't let it be you. It is not worth it. Stick to what you're doing. I know it's a struggle. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's taking some time. I know it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. Just stick with what you're doing. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So, again, we're just going to have to wait and see. In this episode, Keisha and Emmett do decide to buy the house, and I think that was... I don't know, because I'm like, Keisha, girl, at one point, you're like, I don't know. And then about Douda, now you're just like, well, I mean, I guess, but let him know it's a loan. I'm like, I get it that Emmett and Keisha are kind of like growing more together this season, but the decisions to be in bed literally with Douda are just not making the process any better, and I feel like they're definitely going to regret it. I'm just so worried. Like I said in my last video, there's so many people I'm really worried for this season, and I'm just like, now Keisha, you getting to change your mind because you want a house that bad? Like, what were you going to do if Douda was not involved in Smokies, or just involved, period? And the money wasn't coming in like that? You would have had to suck it up and stay at the house that you're in until you guys could afford to move. Same way with Tiff. I'm like, you got Rob, who we'll get to pretty soon, who looks like he comes from money, like, and you and Rob are also in business together. You could have got a car through that. Like, I digress. So, of course, in this episode, we get into Lene, and Victor comes by the house, and he basically tells Nina and Dre that, hey, Jamal's out. I spoke with him. Is it okay with you guys? And Lene, of course, that he comes by and meets Lene and has a talk with her. And I can understand, Nina and Dre, everybody has been through a lot on this show, so I can understand them, especially just kind of being like, I don't know, this is his only chance. If he messes up, that's it. And I respect them for letting Lene make that decision if she wanted to, sit down with her brother and have that time. And so, of course, Lene, she says yes. And I think that's good, even though she was a little bit on the fence about it. But I think that was really good that she was like, yeah, sure, I'll sit down with him. We can talk. And so eventually we do see Jamal come over and have a conversation with Lene, and they kind of start out on two opposite ends of the room, and then they kind of come together, and it's just like, oh great, I have my big brother back. He kind of scopes it out, like, is she still cool with me, or is she not want me here? But of course she wanted him there, and he goes right back into being a big brother again, and just kind of lets her know, I'm home, I'm back, it's going to be different, I'm working on myself, I want different, catch me up on what's going on with you. And of course she says she's dating, and he's basically trying to scope out, like, who's this guy? And she's like, blah, 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 blah. And he was just like, nothing good comes from street guys. Like, nothing good comes from being involved with somebody like that. And she's just like, yeah, I know. And, he kind of is taken back. Like, he still regrets his decisions. And, just having that time apart from his sister, just, you can see it on his face that that's not really what he ever wanted, even though he did what he did. And so, she kind of places her hand on his hand to reassure him, like, hey, you're still my big brother. At the end of the day, I still love you, without really saying anything. And, they're still close and they're all they got. So I thought that was really nice, and I'm really excited to see their bond grow in a hopefully more positive way, and them getting closer and everything. So yeah, and of course, in this episode, we do have Jamal and Tracy being introduced, because I believe Jamal is going to start working with Tracy, and I think something's going to go on there, you know what I mean? Because as we know, we have Tracy, who ended up blocking Douda his number, and dang it, I hope nothing happens to Jamal, because I'm like, we got Jamal trying to do right, Rashad trying to do right, like, it just makes me so nervous, because I'm like, I just hope nothing happens to either one of them this season. And Pastor Stanley trying to do right, and it looks like Bakari's maybe having a change of heart, so I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, please don't let nothing happen, oh my gosh. So yeah, we have Jamal just basically explaining to Tracy, like, how I was before. I'm not on that. I'm trying to turn a leaf, a new page, trying to do what's right, stay out the way. And she's like, yeah, me too. So I can see that kind of like glazed eye look he was giving her, like all googly eyed and stuff. So I think something's gonna happen there, but I hope Douda does not get involved and try to cause issues if something does, end up happening between them. Alright, so, like we discussed earlier, we have Tiff and Rob meeting up with Cairo, and, just discussing, like, hey, come work with us. You could be, our supplier. And he's like, no, that's fine. I'm doing business by myself. I have my own farms. I'm not even looking at you guys as competition. I can explain to you how to do it for yourself and what you need, and then you guys can just go from there. And so they're smoking, of course, and he's explaining like how everything is best to do it organically. People put stuff in weed, and that's not the way he cares to go. And so basically he's just like, hey, if you have a mansion, they're like, oh no, we don't have that. So he's basically, all right, get you a house, get you something where you can grow the weed in, get you a couple of workers, a temperature controlled environment where you can, control the humidity and different stuff, or the temperature, have people work for you, and you're good to go. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, you also are going to need money to invest in that. And so they're like, all right, okay, sounds good. So of course they get home, and Tiff is basically like, I don't want to work for Douda. I don't want to be under Douda. I don't want Douda anywhere involved. And Victor's just like, but he's giving us like 15% off the top, and that's more than his Uncle Q, gave them. And she was like, basically, do you trust me? He was looking at her like, yeah. And she's like, well, we're doing it. We're breaking ties with Douda. We're going to go full throttle. How can you afford this home? I'm like, Tiff, wait a minute now. You never asked him anything about his upbringing, his life. You just moved in with him, brought little EJ with you, and y'all never had any discussions about life, where he comes from, his family, how did he get this big house? And he's just like, oh, well, my mom, it's not really my house, it's my mom's, it's an investment, and, she kind of gave it to me. And she's like, well, go talk to your mother. Like, you wasting time. If we want to start this business, do business together, get stuff popping, be business owners, do it for ourselves, call your mom. And so, of course, we see Len Whitfield, who I love, 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 love. I love her. She's awesome and a great actress. We see her, and she is Rob's mom, Alicia. And so basically they're having a discussion about how much, Quincy was a brother. That was her brother, and he was like a father figure for Rob, and she was able to raise him the way she was because of him. And have the house and have money and different things like that. And of course, she knows he had his, ties to the street. But if it was not for his Uncle Q, Quincy, none of this would be possible. And so she's like, well, how much do you need? And he's like, 50 stacks. And she was like, excuse me? Um, okay, fine. And so then he was like, okay, like, And so basically, it's funny because Rob ended up quoting Douda about blood being thicker than water. It's not really a bond. They're just bonded. And I'm just like, yeah, Tiff, you could have asked him about his mother's relationship, because what I'm getting with Rob and his mom, Alicia, I just feel like they don't have that mother-son relationship. That's your typical mother-son relationship. I just feel like there's a bit like strained there, and it's just like, I talk to you as needed, but we don't have to talk all the time or be close like that. It's what I kind of picked up on, and just seeing that. Of course, I think he asked for like 100K or something, because she was like, "Look, your uncle, my brother, meant so much to me. Find out how he died, like who basically took him from us. Like, I need you to figure that out, and I'll give you 100 stacks." And actually, not only that, I need you to go one step further, and when you find out who did it, that's it for that person. And so basically, I was just like, well, dude, count your days. At this point in my head, I'm like, okay, so I think everybody has an issue with Douda. I think everybody just needs to gang up and do what they need to do, and not. Because I don't know if everybody can handle it one-on-one, approaching Douda, because he's so sly and like so sneaky, and I'm just like, being one-on-one with Douda just means either one of y'all come out, or who knows. But if everybody just go at Douda at the same time, you saw we're good, he ain't coming back, like, that's great. But oh my gosh, I'm just like, oh, and then at the same time, I'm like, is Rob gonna like go to Victor and ask Victor about his uncle? We'll see, because I'm kind of curious if Rob's gonna have a conversation with Victor as well, and kind of get some clues or figure out, like, okay, so what happened? What happened with my Uncle Q? Because Rob was on my list of me being nervous last week, so yeah. Segue on out of that one, which, like I said, I was super excited that we finished the episode with her and we got to see her. But I forgot to also mention that Myaja did have a performance, and I think she, we didn't really see the performance, but from Gemma's perspective and Kevin, she did amazing. She did awesome. And, she was nervous, but I'm really glad that her and Kevin got to have a little bit of a conversation, like, okay, what are we doing? Are you hiding me? Or like, what is this gonna be? Which I thought was so funny, because earlier in the episode, Kevin and Jake were playing games, and, basically Jake's asking, like, hey, can you wear my merch when you have your next competition? He's like, yeah, sure, it'll be a band. He was like, we're friends, I ain't doing that, family discount. Family discount, whatever, that's not happening. But he was just like, I'm just playing with you. And I thought it was hilarious because, of course, Myaja is texting Kevin about her performance, and Jake was like, who is that? Like, who's blowing up your phone? Or like, who got you smiling at the phone like that? Who got you smiling? So, basically, Kevin was just like, it's Gemma, and Jake was like, yeah, all right. So I thought that was kind of funny, but it was nice to see, Kevin come to her performance and kind of have a discussion, and, they're on the same page. They want to keep it exclusive just to themselves, we're not popping out just yet. I did see that look that Gemma gave Myaja and Kevin as he was leaving, because it was just like, you're the only one that showed up. You're back here talking to her. She kind of gave him like a little flirty look, like, and Gemma was just looking like, what's going on with you two? So I'm hoping that, like, she's not one to expose, like, oh, I think, Kevin and Myaja are dating, or like it doesn't come out through her. I'm hoping that they're just able to do it themselves. But of course, I'm like, dang, we always dating in the friend group. But I think Kevin was with Myaja first, because Myaja keeps saying, let's not tell Papa. So I'm just like, oh gosh. But Gemma still looked like she had some kind of like a little jealousy going on there, which I thought was hilarious, because she was just looking like, And I'm like, girl, you didn't even dump Kevin when you ended up with Jake, so let's not go there. Let's not look, and Kevin and my age were actually together first, so let's not do that. And I'm like, this is the problem with dating within the friend group, or just this person dating this person dating this person that, it's just like. So hopefully this friend group stays solid, and I don't know, we'll see. My thing, and one of the biggest takeaways so far with just these two episodes that I'm seeing, is just how the women, I think, are being a little bit more influential in the decision making of the guys. So specifically, we have, Keisha and Emmett, Tiff and Emmett, Rob and Tiff. Oh my gosh, who else? It'll come to me. So, it's interesting to see, because with Keisha and Emmett, it's like Keisha is being super pushy, and so persistent. With them having to get a house, we gotta get a house, and being so in his ear that you're just pushing him closer to Douda. I'm like, you're pushing him, you're just giving him that kick, that push, like, all right, have that conversation with Douda. And I feel like, and I'm just curious to see if this does happen this season, if at some point, of course, when making decisions, there's good and or bad consequences that come from the decision, but I'm just curious to see if at any point when the consequences of the decisions do unfold, if the guys are going to start blaming the girls, like, well, you made me, you were all in my ear, you told me, you kept pushing, you kept talking, if it wasn't for you wanting this house, if it wasn't for you wanting to expand and have a business of our own, we wouldn't be here, if it wasn't, just different things. I'm curious to see if that's going to happen this season, like somebody pointing the finger back at the other person, like, well, that's your fault, we're in this mess now, because same way with Rob and Tiff, you can tell Rob was a bit on the fence about even going from up under Douda, with him being like, okay, yeah, he gave me 15%, that's more than my Uncle Q was giving me, and I do want to have our own business, but I just made a deal with Douda. And same thing, who was it that said it? It was Rob. Sorry, because I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, who said it? It was Rob. Same thing that Rob said. There's a risk for anybody. Everybody knows, especially when you do business with Douda. When you try to cut him off or just do something without him, there's a risk involved. You could end up unalive. That's it. Like, everybody knows what happens when you just go up against Douda. It's risky. So when, after they came back from meeting Cairo and just feeling like, yeah, we can do this too. It's like a campaign, like, you can do it, I can do it, we can do it too. And just seeing, like, Tiff kind of in Rob's ear. Like, I think Rob was already said, like, okay, that was a good meeting, it went nice, it gave us some ideas if we wanted to do that. And then, Tiff just kind of bzzz in his ear, like, how'd you get this house? Oh, my mom. Well, you don't come from money? No, I don't come from money. My mom, it's my Uncle Q, they're the ones with the money. Kyra said we need to have somebody be our investor, get a loan, give us money. Here goes Tiff. So you don't want to be in business for yourself? Like, girl. Like, I'm like, he does. But again, like I said, I don't even think they discussed, like, their family relationships or anything like that. I don't even think they even went that deep in the relationship or had those kind of conversations, because I'm like, what if his relationship with his mom is strained? What if they're not close like that? And now his mom is putting stipulation on, okay, I give you this loan, you do this for me. It's only right. That was your uncle. We wouldn't have had this without your uncle. So now you're in it even more, even deeper. Like, it's up to you. I'm expecting you to do what you gotta do. And that's that. Like, I'm only giving you this money if you can do what you keep up with your portion of this deal. So now you have Rob making a deal with his mom to go after Douda, but he doesn't know it's Douda just yet, of course. He's just like, okay, I just want to figure out who. He basically killed my Uncle Q, and it's just like, ah. And so I'm like, Tiff was so pushy on the fact that to me, it was kind of pushy. The fact that, okay, we can have a business for ourselves, we can start a business for ourselves, let's do it. Ask your mother, do you want to do this? Stop whining, step up, do it, let's go. Let's go. Like, I want it. I want more money. I don't want to listen to nobody. And same thing, Emmett told Tiff. Like, you don't want to work for nobody. You don't want to listen to nobody. So, when he was asking her, like, isn't the weed business doing good? I know you don't listen. I know you want to be in business for yourself. So, it's just like, I'm hoping, and I know, like I said, good and bad consequences. So, I'm just, kind of interested to see how all of these decisions that everybody is making, how they just kind of unfold. And, yeah, and I think the biggest thing also this season or so far that I've noticed is just trust. Trust being such a big thing. Like, it's kind of it's spoken in some relationships and kind of unspoken in others, where it's just like, do you trust me? So that's like with Tiff and Rob. Without her saying, do you trust me? It's like, you want to be in business for yourself, right? And then him being like, yeah, we can have our own business. Clink, let's clink glasses. All right, like, that's basically saying, like, yeah, I trust you. Like, yeah, we can do this. Yeah, why not? And then even with Emmett kind of talking to Keisha sometimes, or vice versa, it's like, do you trust me? What I'm trying to do with Douda and the money that we're bringing in, and some of the decisions that I'm making, like, where's the trust? How are we going to figure this out? We have to have some kind of understanding. And again, not only with those couples, but Rashad and Deja as well, in a sense of, do you trust me? Like, I'm trying to do things the right way. And even with her being like, oh, I'll just loan you some money. Like, you don't have to be outside doing this. Like, I got you. And him being like, no, let me do it. Like, do you trust me? All right, go in the house. I got it. I can do this. Like, just back me up, support me. So, whew, I don't know. Like I said before, I'm super excited that the season in general just has more episodes. That, like, I've seen in various other people's videos, which is so true, and in comments as well, that this episode was definitely like the calm before the storm, and you could see some turning points for some characters, and just like little things. It wasn't as big as last week's episode. It was just seemed like a little bit of a filler episode. Like, okay, we have some characters that were obviously the same characters as before, and then we have some returning characters, and as well as some new faces. So it's just like, oh my gosh, all right, let's do this. Like, I'm just, again, interested to see how things unfold, and especially with the decisions that are being made. And I'm interested to see, for sure, Bakari and the influence that Douda has on him versus the influence that Pastor Stanley, as you can really tell, like, he does think highly of Papa and his family, especially Pastor Stanley. How is that going to influence? And I'm interested to see he and Lanae's relationship, because now Lanae has the influence of her brother Jamal, because he's home now and he's around and he's just concerned about his sister. And so I'm interested to see if they'll remain together. What's going to happen? Is Bakari going to continue to do business, and not business, but, work for Douda, which everybody knows he works for him? Or is he going to try to turn a new leaf and, kind of do what's right and leave the streets and, for the sake of either Pastor Stanley or Lanae, and wanting to keep these people around and have these relationships with them, because I'm not sure if Lanae will last or what's going to happen with that. But again, I'm super eager and excited to see what's going to happen this season. I am new to this, so please bear with me. I'm still trying to figure everything out, and how long I want my videos to be. I definitely can talk, so sometimes, but yeah, so I'm still figuring out. But please do me a favor. Please give me feedback in the comments. Definitely like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoy this video, definitely give it a like. And I just look forward to the comments and just having some, back and forth with everybody. And I hope everybody has an awesome day. Again, as I mentioned before, I would definitely try to get my videos out on either Friday or Saturday. I do have Showtime, and I do end up watching the episodes on Friday, so I will definitely try to get it out as soon as possible. So yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great and awesome day. Bye.